My name is Gavin McCormick. I'm also a PhD student, and I study electricity markets. So my area of research is, where is this energy coming from right now? If we were to turn off the lights, there's a particular power plant somewhere far away which would instantly lower its level of production just a tiny bit. The question is, what kind of power plant is it? If you care about the environment, then you might care about the difference between a windmill turning down its production a little bit, which is very wasteful, or a coal plant producing a little bit less pollution. Now, if you think about it, it's actually pretty weird that we don't normally know which one we're getting. If you look at that outlet, where is that power coming from right now? If you were to go to buy shoes, and the shoe salesman said, I'm not going to tell you what kind of shoes are for sale, would you like to buy them? That would be outrageous. Nobody would say yes to that. So why do we put up with that from power? My answer would be, it's not that we don't care about the answer, it's that how would you know? How would it be physically possible to discern? We have no way to do that. But through my PhD research, I have developed an algorithm that lets you know, with a small margin of error, a probability distribution of around which power plants you are getting energy from right now. So we can actually tell you which kind of power we're getting right now. And I want to make sure it's the same. Yes. So in fact, these lights are being powered by a natural gas-fired power plant right now. So the key point there is now. Nick Fermani over here and Anna Schneider have been building the actual technology to do this. And what our app does is tells you where are you going to be getting power from at different times of day. In this particular graph, we've collapsed it into how clean is your energy at a given point in time, which we think is the key information. So this allows for a novel way to cut your carbon footprint. Suppose that you want to have half the carbon footprint you did yesterday. You could do your laundry at 6 p.m. instead of 10 p.m., and suddenly that laundry produces half the amount of pollution of the exact same load of laundry. But suppose that you're lazy, and that sounds like a lot of work. Another option you could do is to automate the process. So through our embedded devices page, what we enable is any device with a wireless charger, any device with a wireless connection, which is capable of turning on and off its charging, can automatically prioritize the cleanest times. We began with a phone because it seemed like a natural step for a mobile app. You plug in the phone overnight, and over, say, the 8 hours that you're asleep, it can charge during the cleanest period within those 8 hours. But it's very easy to hook up other devices. Smart thermostats. Suppose you want to be the cleanest on the block and beat all of your friends to the lowest carbon footprint. Plug in your Nest to our app. Or embed a Belkin Wemo, one of the simplest technologies. Through this, you can plug in any device and have it only provide power at the cleaner times. You have to be careful with some devices that you don't break them. We provide more advice on that. Other devices are pretty simple to head in. As you start to operating large industrial processes, in some cases it actually becomes simpler, but we're moving slower there because what you can break becomes a lot larger if you do it wrong. This app is founded in the latest behavioral energy economics research, focusing on why people don't buy more green power. So study after study shows people actually do care about the environment. 70% of Americans say they would like to be using more renewable power. So why don't they? It's not so much that the price is too high. We often hear that if the price were only lower, people would buy this. But a lot of studies say now it's more that people object to the very notion of paying at all. People feel like suckers if they are paying to be clean when cleanliness is something that benefits us all and their neighbor is not paying. So we conducted a randomized controlled trial by 300 randomly sampled Americans and discovered 90% of people say if we could hypothetically provide them clean, free, green power through WattTime, that they would buy this. Interestingly, more people said that they would buy this at $0 than said they believe in climate change. So one thing we've been very interested by is that Republicans seem to like the idea of choice in energy. But if you absolutely do not pressure them and give them a choice, what they choose tends to be the same as liberals. So that's why users care. Why do investors care? Like, say, Gmail, our users are our product. But we're not selling their private data. We're not selling their advertising. We are selling the physical energy shifting itself. So I probably don't have quite enough time for this, but there are 4 major players in energy markets that already buy this kind of product. If you are a windmill, they already pay for transmission devices which can increase their uptime. If you're shifting demand to them, that doesn't increase their costs, but it does increase their sales. Megawatts and energy efficiency is a highly commodified good that we think we can provide at lower costs than many others. Same with carbon targets. Suppose Dow Chemical wants to cut its carbon footprint 20% by 2020. How about 20% in a few months by installing some of our devices? Lastly, since a lot of this works through embedded devices, we see ourselves increasing sales for embedded devices. And that's time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. Do you think that if we had full adoption of WattTime, that would spur more investment in clean energy generation, the same level of investment, or perhaps even less?
It would definitely spur more. You can't quite hit 100% of the grid, but we're not worried about that. Up to about 50% of all electricity consumption. You drive the uptime for renewable energy sources, which means that, for example, many windy spots where there isn't enough demand at the right times of day, it's now profitable to build those wind farms when it previously wouldn't have been. And the algorithm adjusts to current market conditions. So different times would be cleanest as you have more users, but it adjusts for all that.
Excellent idea. How do you, can we talk about a little bit about your algo? How do you figure out as to what the source is and what's the accuracy of that?
So my field is econometrics, not engineering. So we're not literally looking at the power itself. We look at current market conditions. And so it's very simple, for example, to know which power plants are marginal in terms of price. The current methods, however, by which they organize markets do not pay attention to the carbon footprint. So we use an econometric model that compares in the past, when you have very similar hours, which power plant literally turned up and down a little bit, or in a similar pair of 5 minutes, when conditions were precisely matching current conditions.
And what's your accuracy of prediction?
So the accuracy in the sense of bias should be 100%. The precision is the question. So in some areas, we have lower precision than in others. It's probably easy to talk about a 25% reduction at a very high level of precision. If you want to get up to a 100% reduction, I wouldn't feel comfortable in all cases guaranteeing that.
So can you see a model where something like this is embedded in in an electric car? So somebody can set up and say, okay, all I want to do is just, give me the juice when I only get it all from this source or the other source?
Absolutely. That's definitely one of our main areas. There aren't so many electric cars yet, so we haven't been prioritizing that in terms of speed, but we think that'll be a primary application.
Cool.
I wondered if you had thoughts about approaching UC overall as a customer or a client for this kind of app, because as I understand it, UC is 1% of the overall energy footprint in California. So that and they have aggressive energy, sustainability goals. So that would be one place to look to, to talk to them about your product.
Thanks.
Question for you over here. How frequent are your conversations with embedded devices and these type of companies, and does it move the needle, right? So if you were able to integrate WattTime into these types of embedded devices, how much impact does that have relative to our energy consumption? And is the install base ready for this already? Like, can I upgrade my firmware on my washing machine and my dishwasher and have WattTime going right now?
Yeah. Frankly, I've been a little disappointed with the smart appliances market. The behavioral economics would say if you're trying to persuade someone to save $1 on demand responses and it costs $1 to install it, no one cares. So we actually think this could be a way to drive more smart appliances. But putting that aside, the installed base of smart thermostats already is pretty good. You can control it at different levels. So if you just care about day versus night, you can cut your carbon footprint maybe 10% pretty easily. If you have the device willing to shift up to the 15-minute level, you're cold, it might turn on 15 minutes earlier or later. You can get a very substantial savings, especially in areas where you're switching between coal and gas. You can guarantee about 50%.
So how much do you can charge? What's your business model like in terms of if you were to go in, and how do you make money?
Right. So for example here, the business model is if you are a wind farm, you are getting a bare minimum of 2.3 cents per kilowatt hour that are actually shifted to times when you otherwise would not be able to sell. So the benefit is just that. I don't yet know what kind of cut we could expect from that, but seeing it from their perspective, the cost for someone who doesn't yet have a device, it's just literally the price of a smart thermostat. The cost for someone who already has the device is essentially zero. So it's a pretty good rate of return early on. And then there's the other markets as well that are increasingly lucrative, but a little harder.
you presented the preference data wholly in favor of clean. If I have a view that hydroelectric ruins rivers and wind turbines kill birds, and natural gas is the most geopolitical responsible thing to do in terms of foreign policy, can I simply use your app to effectuate my preferences rather than the ones you quoted? Yeah, we have a really strong belief that you should have that choice. When we actually ask people what they choose, a small number of people choose something that we disagree with, and we think that we should allow that. So.
All right, well, thank you.